Son of notorious Mexican drug kingpin El Chapo is pleading guilty to drug trafficking charges.
He is the first of El Chapo's sons to enter a plea deal.
The United States is targeting, they're making so much arrests. Think about everything that's happened in the last year. More's happened in the last year than I believe in the last 25 years or, in terms of the United States prosecution and arrest.
The Department of Justice says 29 suspected members of a violent drug cartel are now in U.S. custody after being handed over by authorities in Mexico.
Some of these arrests that are happening might not be significant because they don't have a name, but just 2 days ago you had one of the Cabrera brothers, who happens to be one of the most important fractions for the Mayo Zambada organization. His organization, the Cabreras, which are from Durango, which I actually dealt with the head of the Cabrera family. He was actually indicted and he's in prison in the U.S. He was the first one to be arrested. Now you just had, number 2 arrested a couple of days ago. So all these arrests are meaning something. And I do believe it's the pressure of the United States that's actually making a difference.
An infamous drug kingpin long in the shadows is about to finally step into the spotlight.
When you have someone who's part of the family that involved, who's willing to cooperate, who basically has all the ins and outs of their organization. There's so many targets, big targets, especially with the upper, leadership, which was El Mayo Zambada, Chapo Guzman, and Arturo Beltran Leiva. But to me, the most fruits of that came from that was Vicente Zambada's cooperation, which is Mayo Zambada's son. The fact that he cooperated just changed everything. I think his cooperation led to so many different indictments and arrests, and he ultimately just he testified against Chapo Guzman himself.
First at 6, his testimony included the word bloodthirsty repeatedly as a government informant led off the government's witnesses in the trial of Marciano Millan Vasquez.
They say Vasquez is a major player in the Zetas drug cartel in Mexico.
You have the leaders of Zeta cartel, who, to me, I believe that if I had to decide on who deserved the death penalty, they'd be like the first in line. They changed drug trafficking. I'm not only in Mexico, I think across Latin America with their, with their violence and their tactics. They're the ones that basically gave birth to the violence we see today. And because of that, because they came from a different culture, and then they were military trained, right? They were soldiers. They took violence to another level, and now you have them in the U.S. courtroom, along with leaders of the Juarez cartel, Rafael Caro Quintero, who happens to be the most iconic drug lord, right? That's what cooperation does. So to me, it does do something. To me, we've been seeing it for the last year, the demise of the Sinaloa Cartel.
Do you think that the Sinaloa Cartel, the next 12 months, you mentioned something to the fact that the landscape has changed and it's changing. Do you believe that there is a possibility in the next 12 to 18 months or so, maybe a little more, that the Sinaloa Cartel is no longer a cartel, but something of the past, a history, and doesn't exist anymore?
Yeah, I think that the name will be there, but I think they will no longer exist. I believe it's also going to happen with CJNG. It's just going to take a little bit more time because the focus has been on Sinaloa for so many years. But I think that if the government continues to put this type of pressure on CJNG, I don't see it lasting 2 years. The landscape in Mexico and drug cartels will look very, very different.